We had the pleasure of working with a very talented filmmaker. In fact, I think I told you about this, Terry. Doug Rowland, who he had a Oscar-nominated film called Feeling Through, and
Yeah.
he casted the first deafblind actor in a co-lead role. And, you know, this was really an undertaking that was an education for him. He came and spent time, immersed himself at Helen Keller, and learned from everyone here just to be sure that his film was authentic and that he could represent this person and make sure the filmmaking process itself was accessible. But he knew it could be done, and it was done very successfully. But as a result of that, we jumped off and did a series of interviews. It's a virtual learning platform, and it is really a community of people who are deafblind who speak on various topics that are important to them. And it's their voices, it's their lived experiences that they share. And they talk about employment, they talk about assistive technology, advocacy, and marriage and, family issues. But it's really about bringing people who may not know to really bring them close to their lived experience and sort of open our minds to, oh, okay, that's, because those questions will go unanswered. So there's
Yeah.
assumptions that are made, but it's really to give people the opportunity, the platform to tell those stories.
Welcome to the HR Huddle podcast, presented by Sapient Insights Group, the ultimate resource for all things HR. It's time to get in the huddle.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the HR Huddle. I'm your host, Teri Zipper. I'm the CEO and managing partner at Sapient Insights Group, and I'm back for another exciting episode of HR We Have a Problem. This is the show where we like to break down the big and most relevant HR issues of the day. We help you make sense of what they mean for you, and we talk about what you might do about them. Joining me today is Sue Ruzenski of Helen Keller Services. This is an organization that helps improve the lives of individuals who are blind, have low vision, or combined hearing and vision loss. Welcome, Sue. It's great to have you on the show.
Well, thank you very much, Terry, for having me. It's great to be here.
So, Sue, this has kind of been your life's work, developing and implementing innovative services in this particular community and helping people with challenges and really helping them to lead independent lives. I know our initial conversation was kind of eye-opening for me. I mean, while we may introduce or understand the general challenge, I would submit that, most people are just unaware of the needs and, quite frankly, the possibilities, like, what can happen out there. So individuals, including yourself, have done a lot to bridge the gap and change lives. And I was hoping that we could continue that conversation and not just continue to educate myself a little bit, but educate our listeners on, what they might do about some of these things. I know a lot of the listeners are, in general, people in HR, other staff functions, people who may be looking for ways to solve for these challenges and for employees that they have, or they may be looking to employ other very capable people. So that's what I was hoping we'd talk about today. Does that sound like a good plan to you?
It does, very much so. And this is very much a priority of Helen Keller Services, a core value being employment and, supporting individuals who are blind, have low vision, and are deafblind to really have the best career choice and succeed in that career. So thanks for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Well, then let's get into the huddle. So why don't you start by giving us a little background on the organization, how long it's been in business, what kind of things you guys do, and kind of what's the overall mission?
Sure, my pleasure. So for 130 years plus, we have been established 1893, and our roots are in Brooklyn, New York. But since that time, we have grown in many, many ways. Helen Keller Services is comprised of two divisions. One is Helen Keller Services for the blind, and the other is Helen Keller National Center. So the Helen Keller Services for the Blind is really the New York-centric kind of arm of our organization. We provide services to all ages, starting at early intervention, including preschoolers. We have a preschool program in Brooklyn. We work with youth, supporting them to explore their future after graduation, have opportunities to learn about STEAM and occupations in that area, work experiences, work job readiness. We have a very comprehensive vocational rehab program for working age adults, and we have specialized services for seniors. And this is something that we offer to people living in the 5 boroughs of New York as well as Long Island. Our national program, the Helen Keller National Center, is the other division, and this is an act of Congress established as in 1967. We have 5 mandates that we are working towards every day. One of them is to provide intensive services to individuals who are deafblind or have a combined vision and hearing loss, and that can be anywhere in the country. And we have our headquarters for this division in Sands Point, Long Island. We have a campus. People come from all over the country and really develop a training plan and work towards their independence, towards employment and further participation and quality of life in their home community. And they can be here with us for any length of time. Their services are individualized, and they really, they steer their ship, they drive the bus. It's all about us meeting people where they are and helping them to achieve their definition of success. But many times, for certain age groups, that it involves employment as one of the primary core areas that they would like to address. So we support people in exploring what type of interests they have. What are their abilities? What are their preferences? What's their past work history? Maybe they have to shift and pivot to a new career, and we look at those options. Or maybe they need to adapt and learn new skills or new ways of doing things on their current, positions, the career that they have had experience with. So it's really about, promoting what it is that they're wanting to achieve. Maybe it's exploring other opportunities. And part of our opportunities might be trying out other types of employment with the support of a staff member. So there's lots of options. We have our headquarters, but we have a regional network around the country. And we've been deploying people throughout the United States. They're employment training specialists that can support people boots on the ground in their community and work with employers, work with the resources in the community, but to achieve whatever's needed to get that person on that road to success.
Yeah. How did you get involved in this group? I mean, you've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, it was, I guess, one of those things that the stars aligned. I don't, it's not a personal connection with the community that I had. I was a special education teacher, and that was back, I've been with this organization for quite some time. So I started out as an instructor. I started here at the National Center, and it's been 45 years. So through this journey
Amazing.
of mine, I've had the pleasure of meeting people from all over and just really learning every day. And I'm still learning. And here I am, the CEO. They had to give me this position, otherwise I wouldn't leave. So anyway, it's a joy to be here. I work with a great team of people every day, but it's really the people who walk through our doors and being a part, they really, enable us to be a part of their journey. And that's a partnership that really is very meaningful.
Yeah. So I think that I love the employment specialists, and these are counselors, basically people who help them evaluate what they do today, look at what might be possible for them. I'm guessing a lot of times they don't even know what's possible. And whether you've got good vision or not, I know when I was growing up, I didn't really know what I wanted to do or be. Right. Mm-hmm. So, there's that level of education. Like, how do I even figure out what's possible? And then given the challenges that I have, is that going to be possible in this environment? How do these employment specialists, when they go out into the field, do they work directly with employers? And And what do they do there? What do they do with those employers? And maybe more importantly too, how does an employer get engaged with somebody like that?
Mm-hmm. So the employment training specialists, we have a team here, a team in Brooklyn. Like there are folks that are working side by side with a prospective candidate for employment. And they may have vision loss, they may have vision and hearing loss, they may have a very lengthy job or work history, or it may be a youth. Here's someone young, like you said, you don't know, what is it that I want to do once I graduate high school? That's a big question. And for youth, it can be even, when you have a vision loss or a vision hearing loss, those questions are even more important because sometimes within their realm of their high school, they don't have role models. They don't see successful blind individuals, successful deafblind individuals maybe, and they don't know what is possible. So part of that is exploring and really working with the job, the employment specialist, but even introducing them to adults who are on their way, or have achieved their vocational goals, and also learning with peers. I can remember a story back when there was a youth who came and she has vision and hearing loss, and she was almost, in her senior year. And we have summer programs where people will come from around the country and they will work in the community for 6 weeks and have an opportunity to really experience what it's like to have a job with the support of a job coach. But she had written down 333 questions of what does a deafblind person do? And some of them had to do around employment. Some of them had to do around marriage and raising children and going to a prom and cooking a meal. But it was sort of, it was such an eye-opening experience for me. But I said, I don't know. You need to ask people who are here, who are also living with a vision and hearing loss, how they do that. And that is the beauty of having an adult learning community where people do share those lived experiences.
Yeah.
And that's why even for us, and I'm speaking like thinking about HR professionals and other folks that are working within different types of businesses, we too are an employer of people who are deafblind. And our goal is to be an employer of choice for people who are deafblind, who are blind and have low vision in all of our locations, to ensure that we are that, sort of standard and model, and we think about accessibility. It's so important that all of us within this organization support that access for any person who may have a vision or vision and hearing loss. So, being that employer of choice, having members of the community be represented in everything that we do from every different type of position, and just figuring out what those modifications, those accommodations, what's needed to make sure that person has equal access and can succeed.
Yeah. And we're not always talking about anything big from an accommodation perspective. I mean, some of these accommodations can be very simple.
That is so true, Teri. In fact, there have been studies on this, and I think people have fear of that often, that this is going to cost us a lot of money to ensure that access is available. But in most cases, it's below $500 per employee to make that accommodation.
Yeah. Wow.
So it varies, though, of course, depending upon each person. But there are ways, and we are a resource. So if anyone has questions about how to support a person who might be losing their vision, or hiring someone and they are blind or deafblind, we are a resource. We have regional representatives. We have 11 throughout the United States, and then we have community service programs in New York, California, the Midwest, New England. So there are resources for people who could come and be a part of that conversation. They could, if in proximity, they might even be able to visit the worksite and do an assessment, look at the environment, identify what are some things, simple things that could be done that could really make a difference in terms of that individual's ease in doing their job.
Yeah. I mean, imagine a lot of organizations don't really have any experience with this at all. unless they do hire someone, or unless they have someone who's already an employee who is losing their vision, or something like that. So they may not even be thinking about that as an option, right? I think some of this is education to employers, and making sure that they understand the opportunities are out there and the cost is not insurmountable to do it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is it. I mean, if you had to pick one thing, what is that barrier? What's the barrier to individuals that we work with every day to being successful in the career of choice? And it's not so much, the accessibility that can be solved. I think it's sometimes people's assumption about what's possible. And it's sort of that, well, how is that going to work? Well, how could that person be able to do that job effectively? Well, they'll do it, but they might do it a little differently. So there's really, just that to take a step back and just think about it a minute, and not decide right away that this is not going to be possible, but to contact us or others that are within the field that can help you. Well, maybe we can answer those questions. Maybe we can solve that challenge. There's so many ways to do things. And that's really what it is. It's about finding new ways, new strategies. Sometimes it's a software program that needs to be tweaked. We have different services where we're working with people in a variety of fields. It's not like, these are the jobs and you must be able to be matched to a predetermined, category. It's really anything that's possible.
Yeah. There's a lot of programs out there. I just think a lot of people don't know about them. I mean, I remember when I was in college, I worked with a program. I didn't know anything about the program, nor would I have known anything about the program, except that I sat next to a guy in my class who was blind. Mm-hmm. And he approached me about helping him, and could I read my notes, record my notes, to a recorder, and anything I saw on the board, stuff that he couldn't see. Like, he recorded the class, but he wanted like additional inputs into that. So I would record my notes, I'd read the chapter for him. And I had no idea that program even existed, except that he sat next to me and he said, "Hey, could you help me?" Mm-hmm. And this guy was super smart. Like, he was, ace in the tests. Mm-hmm. So, those programs are there. Again, most people just don't know about them. And probably, unless you know somebody who's blind or deafblind, you don't think about it.
Yeah.
So some of it is my favorite topic, marketing, but it's really an educational thing, right? And we've tried to do that a lot with diversity and inclusion. But I think, again, some things miss the mark, or unless you know somebody, you're kind of a little bit less connected to the problem or the challenge.
That had come up, in terms of really, who can really share the information that would hit home for a person who may not have an opportunity to interact with someone who is deafblind. And we had the pleasure of working with a very talented filmmaker. In fact, I think I told you about this, Teri. Doug Rowland, he had a Oscar-nominated film called Feeling Through. Yeah. And he casted the first deafblind actor in a co-lead role. And, this was really an undertaking that was an education for him. He came and spent time, immersed himself at Helen Keller, and learned from everyone here, just to be sure that his film was authentic and that he could represent this person and make sure the filmmaking process itself was accessible. But he knew it could be done, and it was done very successfully. But as a result of that, we jumped off and did a series of interviews. It's a virtual learning platform, and it is really a community of people who are deafblind, who speak on various topics that are important to them. And it's their voices, it's their lived experiences that they share. And they talk about employment, they talk about assistive technology, advocacy, and marriage and, family issues. But it's really about bringing people who may not know, to really bring them close to their lived experience and sort of open our minds to, oh, okay, that's, because those questions will go unanswered. So there's assumptions that are made, but it's really to give people the opportunity, the platform to tell those stories. And that's meaningful, and it's a way where people might not know. And it's that part of the educational process that I think, it has an impact.
Finding a great career has always been a challenge. But today, with the massive changes underway in just about every sector of the economy, in just about every country in the world, finding a great new career is even more challenging. And if you're a student, recent graduate, or someone else early in their career, it's even harder for you because you just don't have the experience that those who might be 10, 20, 30 years older than you have. The answer? The podcast, From Dorms to Desks, a podcast by College Recruiter job search site, where every week we take a deep dive into a topic specifically of interest to candidates who are early in their careers and looking for a great part-time, seasonal, internship, or other entry-level job.
Yeah, yeah. And people want to learn, no matter what their challenge or disability or whatever you want to call it, no matter what that challenge is, they want to overcome it, right? I love that you guys sort of follow them throughout their lives, because these challenges change over time, right? From being very, very young and trying to learn the ropes to being, as you said, retired and, living your best life in New York City or anywhere else for that matter. But you have to be able to get around, right? There are things that are changing in the environment every day that maybe create some new obstacles for people. I love that you guys have created that community, and it's more about the entire life cycle versus just one event.
Yes. And the services, they're available at any age. The regional representatives, that we have out in the country for the Helen Keller National Center, they're there as a resource, and needs change. People's vision and hearing change over a lifespan.
Oh, yeah.
What we're learning more and more, people who are of older age, that senior population, that group of people, they're experiencing age-related vision and hearing loss, and it's growing. It's growing enormously. So they say by the 2030, that group could grow to over 3 million to 14 million people. It keeps growing exponentially. And every one of us is probably going to have someone that we know or ourselves that are going to have that experience in our lifetime. So services to seniors is a very important, and it's connecting people. And what's really helped us, with our services and really giving people access is the adaptive technology that has become, it's just growing and advancing every day. It's just an incredible world that we're living in now compared to back, in the day.
Yeah.
But we just had a tech blitz here at the National Center. It was a HKS event with our instructors from Helen Keller Services for the Blind and Helen Keller National Center, bringing in vendors who are creating these adaptive technologies for people with vision and hearing loss. And we had over 300 people. It was a hands-on event. So people who were blind, had low vision and deafblind came and got to really check out this equipment and learn what's new from all of these companies and what are the possibilities. And it's just every year it's just more exciting to see what's available. You were talking about, navigating. and there's things that were happening where we have services like Be My Eyes, where volunteers can give individuals, through their phone, visual information and help them to get through daily tasks that may not be easy. It could be, being in the pantry trying to read where the can of peas are or whatever. It could be navigating the street and knowing, wait a minute, did I pass that store? And now there are glasses.
Yes.
Glasses. You've probably heard about those, where you can get information with the glasses about what's in your environment, and that can really, just support people's independence and empower them to really, live their life. And, we're working with these companies on a regular basis. So part of our adaptive technology goals are providing that intensive training on all this equipment, whether it be a braille display or a magnified program, but it's working with these companies. So having people who are part of the community, having that exchange with the folks that are creating these, this equipment, so that they can get feedback and really, kind of meet the need. And it's really been a successful type of, relationship and collaboration. It's really exciting.
Yeah. That independence is really critical. I mean, my grandmother had macular degeneration, so she lost her vision much later in life. And, one of the challenges that she had was she got to the point where she didn't want to go around people anymore because she couldn't recognize them when they came up to her. And that was, embarrassing, or she just didn't feel like that was right, that people would come up to talk to her and she just couldn't recognize them. So she sort of went inward. And, it's things like that are really challenging. I can imagine those glasses being a huge help. I've been reading about those lately, because they could have instantly told her who was coming, over to her, right? So it can progress, it can change throughout your lifetime. And I'm sure AI is going to have a big impact on some of this as well.
Yes.
I love that, somebody's always creating something new and working on these technologies, and they're huge.
Yeah. Yeah, that I think the AI, we haven't even, scratched the surface how that will support people with this adaptive equipment. So using AI even to give these visual descriptions,
Right.
there have been colleagues, who are blind, who have used the equipment, and they're amazed how accurate and how detailed and how helpful. We as humans, we try our best to, there's training you can actually enroll in. That's it's awesome. It really provides you with the skills to actually provide those types of visual descriptions, because there's an art and the science. There's really a methodology to it. But AI is doing a good job, from what I understand. Going through Penn Station and utilizing those glasses, or it's just, we'll see it evolve and evolve. And I know a lot of people can't wait for the driverless cars to be more prevalent. That's a big, when you have to give up your driving, and that's when you talk about independence, that's a big one even for the young folks too. That's a tough, to experience. So
that was huge. I know, a funny story. My grandmother, while she was losing her vision, was still driving, unfortunately. Like, she would drive herself to church because she knew the way, she knew where the stop signs were, all of that stuff. And the day that she quit driving was the day that she drove home from church and stopped to pick up a guy on the side of the road who she thought was her neighbor. And it was just, a random hitchhiker who got in the car. And she said, as soon as he got in the car, she realized it wasn't who she thought it was. And that was the day she quit driving. But she said, I couldn't make out a face. And so I can't do this anymore. But it's hard.
It's a tough decision to make.
It's very hard.
But there's, there are other ways, and we work with people about safe travel. Orientation mobility instructors, specifically trained to help people, navigate their community and use a white cane. So, that's part of the training that we offer. And of course, that's important for anyone going to work. to be able to get to work independently,
Yeah.
so it's definitely, and the adaptive technology is certainly helpful. I know for seniors, it's so easy, like you were describing, well, those things that start to happen and you lose confidence.
Yes.
And then you start to have this belief that, you know, I can't do these things anymore. And so you withdraw and you become more isolated and, it really it can be a bigger barrier. So
Yeah.
having the opportunity to bring people together, peer learning groups, could be virtual, could be in person. We have a confident living program for seniors. We have groups right now on Long Island through HKSB that are bringing seniors together once a week at a center, and it's life-changing because it's that connection, that social connection, and then finding, hey, how are you solving that problem? And, oh, you're doing that now? Oh, maybe I'll do that. Oh, I never want to use a white cane. Oh, you're using a white cane? Oh, maybe I'll try that.
Yeah.
And so it really is the power of, that relationship building that can really kind of
Yeah.
catapult people forward and really give them that confidence back and
Yeah.
change that belief system. And so they feel like, oh, hey, I can go to restaurants and I can, order and still have conversations and, be a part of things. I think
Yeah.
that's the part that's so important is, in ensuring that people can be included and that they have a life of dignity and that, we think about the differences we all have. And maybe
Yeah.
that difference is a hearing loss or a vision loss, but how can we support that person so they are a part of things and they are included? 2 weeks ago, we had a dining in the dark event, and we brought in some of our, our partners, our friends and supporters, and we had dinner together under blindfold. And it was a really, it's a great experience to connect with people, but it just gives you that perspective a little bit. It's not to say, oh my, this is really too hard. It's about, no, there are tools. So our not instructor, she's our supervisor of the independent living department. She is deafblind. She gave people the tools first and taught them this is the way we, will dine if we have no vision, and giving people the opportunity to say, oh, I can I can do this. This is just an adaptive way, a different way of doing things. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and now with, work remotely and things like that, people have a
Yeah.
lot more opportunity to use the things that they have access to in their own homes, right? So that I think that's also been a positive change for this particular community. But what I heard there was positive peer pressure is a good thing, right?
Yeah.
If people see other people doing it and it works,
Yeah.
they may be likely to do it as well.
That's so
I know
true.
you mentioned you have the employment specialists out in the field. Do you work with any other sort of affiliates around the country that help with other stages of life as well?
Yes, we work with many organizations across the United States and here in New York. We like to collaborate. I mean, that's really our middle name. And part of our mandate even is to really, work with other organizations and provide professional learning opportunities. We have courses available to anyone on our website. There's like 30 courses around how to support and work with people who are deafblind or blind. We provide technical assistance to organizations so we can put together a plan with experts and really define what the needs are of that organization. And we can work with you for 6 months, a year. We can give you the resources, facilitate training, have in-person, virtual. There's lots of options, but it really is our goal to increase the qualified individuals out there working with folks who are blind, have low vision, and are deafblind, and collaborate, make sure those services are available to everyone.
Yeah. How do organizations find you or should they start with you and then you'll introduce them to people in their local community, or How should they approach that?
Yeah, they can contact us. They can contact me, or you could check us out on our website, helenkeller.org. There are contacts for various types of services. There are, ways that you can look up who might be the right person to contact. Happy to direct any communication to the appropriate person within the organization. So my email is Ruzenski, Ruzenski, @helenkeller.org. I'd be happy to make sure that connection is made. Yeah.
Fabulous. Well, is there one thing that you might leave the audience with today that would help them, think more about this problem or get to work on this challenge, something that they could do today?
There's so many things. I could give you a lot of call for actions, but I think, if we look at this area of employment, which is near and dear to so many of us here, and also probably to you, or if you know of a person or a company or a business, where there might be a need for us as a resource, questions they may have, or they're interested and they want to learn more, and we can also think about what positions, if there are positions needing to be filled, how can we support to find the appropriate candidate for that position? We have a National Employment Business Relations Specialist at the ready to work with any company. So it's really introducing us to new partners or new businesses that we can work together and really, support people so that they can achieve their goal when it comes to employment. But I would say that would be tremendous. Any connection there at all, if we could work together, that would be so wonderful and support many of the people that we work with every day.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, so if any of you want to know more about this, please reach out to Sue or check out the website or share this information with anybody that may be looking for help with these types of challenges. I think this is really a worthy cause, and I know I'm going to do some follow-up on it. Not that I have anybody in this situation at the moment, but you never know when you will. And, I think opportunities are out there for you to get involved as well, if this is something that has some passion for you, which clearly did for Sue, because she's been at it so long, they finally just made her the boss.
I love it. It's just, that I am very grateful, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to just have this, chat with you, Teri, and share more about the organization. So thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a great conversation. I want to thank our producers, the Brand Method Media Group, who will bring this episode to you, and our marketing team as well. And thank you for tuning in. It's great to have you. Thanks for joining us today. That's all the time we have for this episode of HR We Have a Problem. If you enjoyed it, you can subscribe to it on your favorite podcast app. I'd appreciate it if you'd leave us a review or tell us what other topics you want to hear about. We'd love to spend some time on topics that you guys are thinking about and interested in. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode of HR We Have a Problem. Thanks, everybody.